In the IPBES Nexus Assessment, we overview how these elements, so biodiversity, water, food, health, and climate, are all connected and how they interact. And it's because at this point we know that there are actions in certain elements that can come at the detriment of another. So for instance, trade liberalization or the opening of barriers for trade can increase food availability and have positive outcomes for health and nutrition, but it may come at the detriment for biodiversity, as we look at in the Clever project. But this is also true for other nexus elements, right? There's action in climate that can be detrimental to biodiversity, and action in biodiversity that could be detrimental to these other elements as well. And so in this overview, the idea is that we identified these response options where we already have evidence on actions that are beneficial across multiple nexus elements, rather than harming one and benefiting another. It's incredibly important that policies are really grounded in scientific evidence, because we want to make sure that the limited funding that's available for biodiversity is actually effective. Nonetheless, it's still really important that we communicate to policymakers and decision makers what really works or doesn't work in conservation. And so this is really where IPBES assessments come in, because essentially our role is to synthesize available evidence from different knowledge sources into one document and make this available to policymakers so that they can pick them up and use them as handbooks. So the problem with current economic and financial decisions is not even that they don't consider the nexus, but it's that they don't consider biodiversity in general. And so our current estimates indicate that we spend around 35 times more on actions or financial actions that directly harm biodiversity rather than on financing that protects or restores biodiversity. The overall message is that we need to decrease this spending that's directly harmful to biodiversity from both public and private sectors, and we need to massively increase the spending that protects or restores biodiversity, ideally in a nexus-oriented way, and ideally as soon as possible, because the sooner we do it, the cheaper it is. When we talk about increasing this spending on biodiversity, we're not just talking about increasing the volume of financing. We're also talking about equity and fairness in the quality of this finance, but also in the distribution. And the first thing that we need here is for governments to more transparently disclose this biodiversity financing, but we need this as well from the private sector so that we can more accurately identify these financing gaps. But there are also many existing tools and strategies that can increase the availability and access of finance low and middle income countries. And this includes things like payments for ecosystem services, microcredits, debt for nature swaps, subsidy reform, and tax policies. While implementing these strategies is no easy task, further research can help us identify which strategies work best in which contexts. IPBES assessments are a process, and in our case it's a process that took over 3 years. We started work in 2022 and it ended in December 2024. We held a total of 3 in-person author meetings, and we had 2 external reviews, which are where drafts of the text of the assessment are shared with governments as well as expert reviewers from around the world for feedback. And the Nexus assessment involved 165 experts, and we included over 6,500 sources of knowledge, not only from peer-reviewed and scientific literature, but also grade literature and indigenous and local knowledge.